Welcome to the Steel Studio Podcast. We're here with Rick Mooney.
This is war! This is war! Ravens are going down!
And Mike Mooney.
Because these Browns fans, they're like hemorrhoids.
Here's the Steel Studio Podcast.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Steel Studio Podcast. We are here with Chad Schmock, our NFL expert. Chad, last week didn't work out very well for us like we thought it was going to for the Steelers. What are your thoughts on the team after losing to the Bills?
I was very surprised. I just very, very surprised with kind of the lack of production from that offense. I think there needs to be a lot of effort putting into the end of the year to kind of establishing a running game. I think just putting it all on Ben's shoulders as a 38-year-old quarterback and making him drop back and just sling it all over the field, I don't see that as a way to win ball games. I think they really need to work on getting James Conner back on track and establishing a good running game.
Do you think that some of that is related? Do you think it's the running backs, or do you think it's the O-line? What are your thoughts there?
You know, I've heard some talk about the Steelers' offensive line being soft, and you know, I didn't really buy into that, but the last couple weeks, it's made me kind of consider that. I was very much in the camp of wide receiver, running back in the first round of the draft, but I'm starting to become more and more in that camp of potentially looking at alignment to kind of help out, get a little bit nastier up front.
Yeah, that's a good point. So if we switch here and talk about the Bengals, that's the upcoming game. It looks like Brandon Allen's going to be starting for Cincinnati. He hasn't played poorly for them by any means. What are your thoughts on him?
He's serviceable. I don't think he's a quarterback that should scare you by any means. I don't think he's really going to push the ball downfield. I don't think he's a threat to beat you. He's going to benefit from having some really good wide receivers. So he's going to have wide receivers that are going to get open, but he's not a guy that's going to throw somebody open or kind of make players around him better. He's going to be a product of his environment. He's actually dealing with a little bit of a knee injury right now, so he's not even going to be 100% moving around with that great Pittsburgh defense chasing him around all day. So I'm a little worried for him, but we'll see.
Hey, Chad. Sorry about all the text during the game, my panic mode, and, you know, harassing you with everything.
I love it. It's good fun.
The Steelers dominated this O-line last time they played. Have the Bengals made any changes since then? And who's their best lineman right now, and who's their worst?
I mean, so they're a banged up group. The big change is Jonah Williams, their left tackle, is out. They're doing a lot of shuffling up front there. So the bad offensive line got a lot worse for them. Honestly, they're dinged up. They're moving a lot of things around, and you know it's gonna be a rough day at the office for them, to say the least.
Yeah, what a shame. Jonah Williams was such a talent, and then they had Burrow, such a talent, and God, you hate to see that. Even though a rival, you hate to see that.
Oh, you do. That's 2 years of first-round picks just gone for the year, and Jonah missed all of last year too. So, I mean, there's a lot of development that he's missing out on.
Is their coach on the hot seat at all?
I don't think so this year. There's been a lot of talk of just how close him and Burrow are and how much Joe Burrow likes him. So I think he's going to get the benefit of the doubt just because of the relationship with the quarterback. But, you know, next year is going to be a big year. They better take some big steps forward or else it's going to get a little tough for him, I think.
Yeah. Obviously the loss of Joe Mixon, another good player, killed their running game. He is eligible to come off IR, but I'm not sure that he's going to be able to play. Have you heard anything different?
No, it doesn't sound like. Most of the talk is that he's probably not going to be back this year. Their coach has said that, you know, it's a possibility, but he also did a lot of that last year with A.J. Green, and you never saw A.J. Green. So I think conventional wisdom is he's probably not going to be back this year. Why would you bring him back at this point? It's kind of a lost season. So if it were me, I would sit him the rest of the year and get him ready for next year.
Yeah. So who is going to carry the rock for them, and how well have they been playing?
So they're kind of doing it by committee. Travion Williams, a young running back out of A&M, got the most carries last week. didn't do terrible. He didn't do great. I mean, he's a solid running back. He's not upper echelon, but he's serviceable. Not so much on the running backs as it is just a lack of O-line talent and just no holes opening up. Samaje Perine, another young running back out of Oklahoma, is another guy he got the second most carries last week. And they also have Giovanni Bernard, who's more of a pass-catching third down back, that he's the one that'll beat you in the passing game. Those are the three guys that you'll see primarily this week.
So, Chad, Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins have obviously had good seasons. You think the Bengals are going to primarily try to throw the ball on the Steelers or stick to the running by committee that you mentioned?
I think they do a little bit better a job with Brandon Allen just because he doesn't have the arm talent of Joe Burrow of trying to stay more balanced. So I think that they'll at least try to run the ball early. I don't think that's going to be successful in any way. So I think they're going to be playing catch-up majority of the game. So there's going to be a lot of passing and Boyd and Higgins, both really good options. Higgins has kind of hit the rookie wall a little bit the last couple of weeks. He hasn't had really big games, but I think playing against that top Steelers defense, it might motivate him a little bit. He could have a decent game this week.
Yeah, we know all about the rookie wall. It looks like we have one that might have hit it too, but Tomlin did say today that they've been setting him out a little bit more in the last couple games so he can be ready for the playoffs. So, but Chad,
could be a game for him to get rest.
Yeah, Chad, the Bengals D-line is not nearly as good as it was a couple of years ago. The defense only has 15 sacks on the season. Has anything changed there, and are they healthier than they were earlier in the year?
Yeah, they're a little bit healthier. There's just not that elite pass rusher. I mean, they got Sam Hubbard and Carl Lawson as their DMs. The big change for me is Xavier Williams has kind of taken over for Geno Atkins at the defensive tackle role, which I know Geno hasn't been happy with the switch to the defense from to the 4-3 and the 5-2 hybrid. I know he doesn't feel like he's got a spot there, but and that's just an elite level talent that's not seeing the field on a bad defense. So they're healthier, but they just don't have that guy that can consistently get to the passer on that D line.
Ken, how about the linebackers? Has anyone been standing out there, and who's the leader of that group?
Linebackers I think it's probably the strength of a bad defense, but I mean Logan Wilson's solid linebacker. Got a little bit of a foot issue this week. I think he's going to play, but I think he's probably as good as it gets for them. You also have Darius Phillips at the corner. Jermaine Pratt is the other linebacker that really stands out for them. Another solid player, not elite by any means, but solid player. Definitely the strength of that team. And they have Darius Phillips, who will come up and kind of help in the run game and kind of help those linebackers out a little bit.
So as far as the secondary goes, it looks like Jesse Bates is the leader. Has William Jackson dropped off a little from what he was, and can the Steelers throw on them once again?
Yeah, I definitely think they can throw on him. William Jackson, I think he has dropped off. At least for me, there was that expectation for him to take that next big step and start to be one of the better corners in the league. And I just haven't seen him get there. I think a lot of that can be the fact that people just have all day to throw on him. So it could be that. Maybe if they get that elite pass rusher, it'll help him a little bit. Definitely easy to throw on him. Jackson and Phillips, they're good, but again, they're not great, and they're just being asked to cover forever. So that's very difficult. They also have Von Bell back there at the safety position. He's a ball hawk back there. He can make some plays. He's out of Ohio State. He does some nice things, but it's way too much time in the passing game against for most competent teams. They just pick them apart.
I don't know, man. We got to play better than we have. We could lose this game too.
I think you're pretty safe this week.
Does anything else stand out for the Bengals that you want to mention? It's hard to preview some of these teams.
It's tough for them. There really isn't. I mean, the thing that probably stands out the most for them is who's not there. So no Burrow, no Jonah Williams. They have another early first-round pick, Billy Price, first-round center out of Ohio State, who really hasn't cracked the starting lineup for them. So it's a lot of those elite level talents that they drafted in the first round that they thought were going to be building blocks that just either aren't playing because of performance or injury. So I think they're just trying to limp to the finish line and draft that first tackle available in the draft come April.
And this is a primetime game, a chance for them to upset the Steelers, but for the Steelers, it's a chance to stay perfect in division and clinch the North. So how do you see this one playing out?
I think the Steelers get healthy this week. I think the Steelers get their confidence back this week, and it is pretty much a beatdown. I think the Steelers win by at least 3 scores.
That sounds good to us, hopefully. We could use that confidence. Chad, a huge win for Baltimore over Cleveland last night, too. This division's getting interesting. Both defenses struggled quite a bit, and it came down to pretty much who had the ball last. You think the Browns have arrived, and should they be considered a legitimate contender?
I think the Browns are better. I don't think they're a legitimate contender. I think there's a lot of problems on that defense. Number one, first and foremost for them, they're not healthy. So no Denzel Ward, no Rodney Harrison. That hurts, but linebacker's still a huge problem for them. Dealing with the tight end is still a huge problem for them. They're one probably good free agent class and linebacker in the draft away from potentially arriving next year. But getting to the playoffs, getting to experience that for a young team, I think is going to be the end of a good season for them. And the Ravens, I mean, they got beat up last night too. They had a lot of injuries at the corner position. So how those guys kind of get healthy and what they have available down the stretch, I think is going to tell the tale on them.
How about Baker Mayfield? You think he's actually a franchise quarterback? I mean, he looks good right now.
That, I think, is a $1 million question for Andrew Berry right now. I think he's definitely looked better. I think this is probably the best stretch of football he's played since he was at Oklahoma. I think he's trending in the right direction. I still want to see what he does in that Steelers game. I want to see what he does in that potential playoff game. So I think right now, if they had to make a decision today, I think they pick up that 5th-year option. And it might not be a bad idea to look at potentially extending him now and getting him a little bit cheaper than, if he has a good year next year, you're going to have to break the bank for him. I don't think that's what anybody should want to do for a quarterback like him.
As far as the rest of the AFC, the Chiefs struggled again and found a way to win, as they often do. Do you think this will catch up to them eventually? And Tony Dungy was quoted as saying they're just bored because they're so good that that's why they have close games. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I respect Tony Dungy. He obviously knows a ton about football, but I like to think the competitor in people is not going to go out and play bored. I think he could catch up to him. I mean, there was a lot of times even in the playoffs last year where they got way behind and they were able to pull it out. I think you do that against the wrong team, you're going to end up getting yourself beat. But I still think, we're on pace for a Steelers-Chiefs AFC Championship game. I think they're the favorite now based on how Pittsburgh's played the last couple of weeks. But I think there's a lot of football left to be played, and there's obviously a lot of time to kind of change that.
I think we're glad to hear your positivity because I don't think that we're feeling the same way right now. So, AFC Championship game sounds really good to us.
I'm pretty confident about that.
We'll take it. Well, Chad, that's all we got. So thanks as always. We appreciate it. Hopefully there's some good football this weekend.
All right. Enjoy the games, guys, and good luck this week.
All right. Thanks, Chad.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, man.